Yo, what up, a-holes? Thank you for tuning into the Holistic A-Hole podcast. My name is Eric Levi, and I'm the Holistic A-Hole, the mommy blogger with balls, the inconvenient truth of health, and a certified nutritional therapy practitioner. What's up, everybody? How you doing? Thanks so much for tuning in here to the latest episode of the podcast, where today I have an awesome guest on the show. Her name is Shawn Mynar. She's the host of the Keto For Women show. She is a holistic nutritionist based out of Boulder, Colorado. And after years of chronic health issues, she was able to regain complete health by changing the food she puts on her plate, the lifestyle choices she makes, and the mindset she brings to daily life. She now has made it her life's mission to help others understand and leverage the power of food as medicine, specifically with a high-fat, low-carb approach. She also teaches a group course called the Fat Burning Female Project, which I am not a female, but maybe I kind of wish I was, because the program sounds pretty awesome, so I highly recommend it. Basically what it does is it takes women through the process of becoming keto adapted with a safe, effective approach. Shawn shares her knowledge and experiences with the masses on her podcast, the Keto For Women show, through Instagram and via her website. So me and Shawn had a great conversation, and I didn't know what to expect because I met Shawn at the Nutritional Therapy, the NTA conference, and I'd never heard of the Keto For Women show, and I was just kind of roaming the halls there, and she was hosting a meetup. And I swing by. I was like, I didn't know it was a meetup for her podcast. I just was like, what's going on? There's just a bunch of people hanging out, and somebody goes, oh, it's a podcast meetup. I'm like, a podcast meetup? And lo and behold, it was for her specific podcast. And I mean, it was slammed. She had a lot of people. She has a lot of fans. And so I got in touch with her, and we scheduled a time to do this podcast, and we did it. And I get it. I get why people are into her podcast, because Shawn is very intelligent when it comes to health. And I'll tell you this, don't be thrown off by the trigger keto, because as much as she does, she does espouse the benefits of keto, that's not all she's about. She's really about a balanced, well thought out, responsible diet. And we go into a lot of detail. We kind of nerd out a little bit on this episode. If you love getting into the weeds of health, we do a lot of that here. But if you're an a-hole and you tune in to try to get some snippets of health, of really valuable health info and nuggets, oh man, this episode is loaded with so many great little health tidbits and just kind of health geeky stuff. I mean, if you just sat there with a notepad and took notes on kind of what she talks about and kind of Shawn's approach to health, you're gonna learn a lot. And, she's a great, I would definitely recommend, if you are looking for somebody to work with, or, you are looking for a good online course to take when it comes to nutrition counseling, I mean, definitely check out her Female Fat Burning Project course, because, again, she's an NTP, she's a nutritional therapist, she's a restorative wellness coach, she knows her shit. And she can do tests, and, I think she can do some blood testing. She can do food allergy testing. So you're definitely going to get a lot out of working with someone like Shawn, even if you just take her course. Again, highly, highly recommended. But, I also kind of want to toot my own horn here and just throw it out there. If you are a fan of the podcast, make sure you do a hot favor for me and subscribe. Subscribe to the podcast if you haven't done this yet, and then go on over to iTunes. Give us a 5-star review. It's so easy to do, and it's the nicest thing you could do. And make sure you follow the Holistic A-Hole on all the social mediums. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all Holistic A-Hole. Instagram, I got videos, I got stories, I got all that stuff. And then follow the Holistic A-Hole YouTube page, and you can keep pace, or you can keep in touch with everything we got going over there. We got videos, we got all kinds of good stuff. These episodes are being posted over there as well. So with no further ado, everybody, thank you again for tuning into the podcast, and enjoy my interview with Shawn Mynar. Okay, hey, we are here. Shawn Mynar, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
This is great. Big fan of your podcast. You're the host of the Keto For Women podcast.
hmm Yep.
And what I realize in listening, because I've been listening to a little bit of it, is it's not just for women.
It's
Um,
not.
yeah, guys can actually learn a lot from your podcast.
Yeah,
So
I actually have quite a few men that have come up to me just when I've been out and about saying, "Oh, I listened to your podcast." And it's like, that's cool because you can still get a ton of information as a male. It's just that females, we talk a little bit more about hormones than probably most men want to hear about. So as long as you can deal with that, then yeah, there's plenty of info for the guys out there too.
yeah. And you know what's crazy is, I mean, when I talk to, so just kind of like a quick thing. So you're a nutritional therapist,
hmm
correct? And
Yep.
then you also have another certification, I believe, or is it just nutritional therapy?
No, I also am a restorative wellness practitioner, which some NTPs or NTCs may have heard about. And basically, that takes you into the process of doing functional lab testing. So, using a salivary hormone test or a urine hormone test, adrenal test as well, blood testing, and stool testing for gut health issues. So, I went through that whole process to add that to my practice when I was an NTP, and then now actually do those as small group courses online for females to kind of go through that process together of learning more about their gut or their hormones, their adrenals, that kind of thing, food sensitivity testing, all that stuff. So it's really fun.
Right. And so, like, when it comes to something like hormones, what do you find for women is really the biggest problem when it comes to, I mean, I'm married. I can think of a few myself, but like, what do you think in your experience? Because you're seeing the lab tests, you're
Yeah.
interpreting them, you understand this on a very academic level.
hmm
When it comes to women's hormones, like what do you see as being the biggest problem with maybe the hormones themselves, and maybe what you see often causing those problems the most?
Yeah, well, the biggest problem is that we're stressed. Like we are stressed to the max. Some of us know it, some of us don't. But I think a lot of women don't realize the impact that that has not only on how you feel on a day-to-day basis, but what it's doing to your hormones down the line. So when we're stressed out, we obviously call upon our adrenals to help us manage that stress response. We have cortisol, that's the hormone that's made from our adrenal glands to help mitigate that stress level. But then when that happens, there's a whole cascade that takes place where, when you're producing cortisol, that's kind of your body taking that as a priority and leaving the rest behind because at that time you don't really need to worry about having a baby or creating a new life. So it's like, let's put a back seat to the progesterone, the estrogen, the menstrual cycle, because you're under such a level of stress that's kind of taking over, and it's not a safe place in your body to even create another human. So down the road, there's a whole cascade that happens where what I typically see is that women in general, they're stressed out, their adrenals are tanked, their cortisol levels aren't at the place where they need to be just to feel good throughout the day. And in addition, their rest of their hormones are also tanked. There's definitely a just low hormone overall situation that goes on for many women, but more so the progesterone levels, which kind of are supposed to peak at the towards the end of our cycle before we start menstruating. Those are non-existent in a lot of people, and it causes what's called estrogen dominance. And in the case of estrogen dominance, there's just this really intricate dance, I call it, that our hormones, estrogen and progesterone, have throughout the month. And that dance is so critical to how we feel that every single day they kind of have this relationship that they should be doing with each other throughout a whole cycle. And when that progesterone is too low, estrogen takes over. It has the more dominant role in that relationship, which it really shouldn't be. And then, I mean, you just absolutely feel it. You don't sleep well, you're moody, you are agitated, you don't have this relaxed sensation that is typically what progesterone is meant to do. So not only that, but you also have these really not great periods. Like your periods are painful, they're not predictable. You have tender breasts, just there's all these symptoms that it's typically known as PMS, but it's because that dance has been thrown off because we're so stressed. It just all comes down to the stress level that we're under today as humans, just in general, but then even more so as females, and really feeling like we need to do everything for our families, ourselves, our jobs, all of it. It's just taking a toll.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting because guys also experience estrogen dominance.
Yep. Absolutely.
Which is
for the same reason.
Exactly. Yeah. And, I mean, the old cortisol steal, right? Yeah. That's such a chronic problem because we are so stressed. Mm-hmm. And I think when we hear stress, we think like you were talking about emotional stress, but it's also the stress of the environment, right? It's like the physical stress. You know?
There's so many things, there's the things when we hear stress that we think about, like our jobs, our relationships, our kids and their schedules, these things that we consider stress, but that's like the tip of the iceberg. What's actually going on in your body that, like I said, you may or may not even know about that's causing a lot of stress. It could be a gut issue, a food sensitivity of a food you're still eating. And even like you mentioned, the environmental stressors. And like I just had someone on the podcast talking about EMFs and the exposure there, just all the chemicals and the toxins that we're exposed to on a daily basis that then stress out your liver that causes your body stress. There's just so much to think about beyond just like, yeah, my boss sucks and that gives me stress. Like that's, again, one small piece of it.
Right. Yeah. And I think for women too, the amount of makeup, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, just like the toxins in the makeup, like I forget, there's a comic who has just a hilarious joke about women. Oh, it's Tom Papa. And he's like, women, every day you have to put an art project on your face, Yeah. And it's like the sheer amount of products that are physically going on your skin from the eyeliner to the foundation to the lotion to, I mean, like I look at my wife's cabinet and I mean, it just looks like, just a trunk of stuff. And I don't know. I mean, it's just a myriad of chemicals. And, I would imagine the people that listen to you are probably a little bit more conscious of this stuff, but, you could still walk into any department store in America. And I mean, the sheer amount of chemicals that are available for women to put on their bodies and faces and everything around them is so, astounding.
Yeah. And we're putting that on our largest organ, which is our skin, and our most absorbent organ, our skin, right? So it's getting into our bodies and it's causing our liver to be totally overburdened by having to detox these chemicals. So, there's a big push at least in my world for safe non-toxic skincare and makeup, which I think is great. So it's out there. It's just we need to start getting women to listen and really truly understand that they have to make that change. And it's tough. And even, our cleaning products that we don't think about, just slowly making changes to have a non-toxic life. It's super overwhelming to think about it all at once. Like, oh my gosh, I have to get rid of my entire cabinet and start over. But just making those small changes are huge to change your health for sure.
Right. And this is kind of where like diet comes in and nutritional therapy comes in. And this is the thing that I don't think people really grasp, because I'm just starting my nutritional therapy journey, so now I'm out there, I'm looking for clients. And it's interesting to see the confusion you get amongst people who they want a nutritionist, but they want a nutritionist to, they just want to lose weight, right? But what they don't understand is like the foundations of them losing weight need to be taken care of first, because, like in something like a crash diet, they're not going to get the nutrition they need. Like if they're just like, you could fast and you could lose 20 pounds in 3 days easily, right? Or maybe that's a little sick, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're physically robbing your body of these nutrients that you need to make the processes like for detox actually be able to happen. Because if you're just
Correct.
walking around and you have these exposures to chemicals and stress, I mean, your body's just free radicals and toxins and all kinds of stuff. And if you don't have the nutrition to get that stuff out, you're just overburdening your body with more problems.
Yeah, and this is really my huge passion as a nutritional therapist and also someone who has kind of weaseled their way into the diet industry. And I say it all the time, I am not in the diet industry, I'm in the health industry. However, my market, my followers are people who are either currently in the diet industry and have been in it for 20 years and all the yo-yoing and what I call diet hopping, or they have been, and now they're trying to heal their bodies from years of that abuse. And, as nutritional therapy practitioners, that's not on our radar. We're not, yeah, we want to get you to a healthy weight, which for a lot of people isn't necessarily the weight that they want to be in, and that's a whole different topic. But we want to get you to where you're healthy at a healthy weight. But to do that, you have to go through a lot of different steps to get there. It's not just about changing your diet. Yes, changing your diet is a huge piece to that in order to start the balancing out process. But there's a lot more to look at. And this is a constant battle that I have on a daily basis with women because they do not understand that they still are in this model where it's like, all I have to do is tinker with my diet and I'll lose the weight. I have to eat less food. I have to start fasting. And, worry about my calorie intake and make sure it's less than my calories burned and all that weird stuff that we've been fed over the years in the diet industry. And I'm a culprit of it too. Like I've been down the diet path for many years, but it doesn't work. It never has worked. Diets do not work. And if they did, if there was one diet that worked and we'd all be perfect, right? We'd all have this amazing body and be at this ideal weight and all that stuff, but it doesn't happen. So you've got to really look at the root cause. You've got to change your mindset too around being on a diet and going from diet to diet to diet and waiting for that quick fix, because that quick fix is going to backfire. It happens every single time. So instead of it's just a change in mentality versus a change in diet, and then really understanding how to holistically heal your body in order to get you to that weight loss that you need to be healthy. There's just so many factors involved besides the food you put on your plate.
Yeah. I was listening to a frequently asked question. You were answering your listener's question, and
Mm-hmm.
and I don't remember exactly what the question was, but you made the comment of like, look, I know it's tempting to look at the scale, but do yourself a favor and don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like don't judge your health by the number on the scale, because that number is so deceiving for so many different reasons. And like I've talked to several people who it's like they're like, I diet, I do this stuff, and it's like, how come I'm gaining weight? And it's because it's not about the calories. It's not
Mm-hmm.
about, how much you eat. It's about obviously what you eat, but it's also about, I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
this whole thing.
Yeah, I always say, if you are doing quote unquote everything right and not losing weight, then that is your body telling you something's up. That is a symptom of something else going on. It could be hormonal, it could be gut, it could be stress, it could be environmental, emotional. Like there's so many different factors. I mean, I can't even begin to list all the other reasons why you could be gaining or not losing weight when you're quote unquote doing everything right. But take that as information for your body. Don't get frustrated. Don't give up. And that's the reason why I tell women not to even look at the scale, because what happens is we use that number to determine whether something's working or not, how we're going to feel about ourselves that day, whether we're going to have a good day or a bad day. It just is such a mental issue that we have with the scale and that number. And it throws off the long game, which is to heal your body, which will get you to the weight that is best for you when you're healthy. It totally negates that, because now you're just focused on this one number, what you think that number should be, and you can't look into other factors that could be at play there, causing that number to go up or down. And it just doesn't really mean anything either. Like that number does not mean anything. It does not gauge how healthy you are or are not, how happy you are or are not. And we put way too much emphasis on it.
So maybe like in your experience, do you see that kind of turning around, or do you see it getting worse? You know,
I mean, in my personal, arsenal of women I'm working with, they understand that that's the goal. So I see it turning around. I see women becoming more liberated from that number in the scale. I see women throwing out their scale or donating it or whatever.
nice.
So it's really great. And it's so fascinating because no matter what, when they do, even if, they're not losing weight or whatever, they still feel so much better. Mentally, they feel so much better and they're so much happier. It's just getting over that fear of not knowing. It's like this tool that we have that's going to basically dictate everything about ourselves, even though it means nothing. So it's getting over the fear of doing that. And then once they do, it's like this whole new world opens up. It's so cool. But that being said, that's very much in my like I said, kind of my following who understands this is the next step. But in the general population, I don't think it's going anywhere, unfortunately, but I wish it would.
Yeah. So, I mean, so when you work with people, are you promoting keto to them? Are you telling them that they should be going keto, or that keto would work for them? I guess my question is, how do you personally feel about keto since you are in that world?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And the first thing is that I never tell anyone they should be doing anything because
Of course.
I believe that every single person, obviously, as you agree, the bio individuality thing, which is what we're taught over and over and over again, and is very much true, that everyone's different. So you have to find out what works for you. And yes, I do think that a ketogenic diet is a good place for a lot of people to start or end up and give that a whirl for themselves. I mean, there's, studies that come out. Luckily, we're in this moment now where keto is finally getting the attention that it deserves. And there are studies that come out on a daily basis that show how beneficial it is for a lot of conditions, health conditions. So I do think it has merit for a lot of people to at least try for even a short period of time, maybe a month, 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, whatever. But no matter what, it has to be something that's done with intention. It is unfortunately also in the period where, because keto is getting attention, it's also getting some undesirable attention as far as becoming a fad diet, a trend, and people are going into it without much thought at all, or with some kind of, I guess, misinformation, because that's what comes along with diet trends is misinformation, just people that have no education about the subject at all, just spouting what they do and then people following that, and it's just a mess. So that's the hard part in the keto space, is that unfortunately it can be done very wrong, especially for women, which is why I started my podcast. And so that's kind of where I have to sift through the waters for people and continue to explain how to approach it from a health conscious place instead of from this diet trend place, which is very different. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I do recommend it for many people, but I also think that it has a time and a place for everybody, and it's up to that person to take the time, use their intuition, and find out what it is, what their version looks like that works best for them.
Absolutely. That's interesting to hear because, you're a proponent of the keto diet, but you also, I think it sounds like you have a very grounded approach to it,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
because I'm a bit of a keto skeptic. Not because I don't think the diet works, but because of what you pretty much just laid out, is that it's an industry now.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
it's the new Weight Watchers. It's the new Atkins, or whatever the thing is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've definitely seen it work for people. Like that. There's no doubt about it that I've seen people whether it's in person or online, who have had a lot of success as far as, physical success with it. Like they've lost the weight they wanted to lose. They say they feel better. Obviously, I don't know. But at the same time, I'm in a lot of these keto groups, and like on Facebook and online and stuff. And I see keto going horribly wrong for a lot of people.
Yes.
And I see you address this too, which is good, because I find a lot of the keto, I hate this word, influencers they don't come at it from that realistic perspective. They just kind of throw it out there like keto is, this is the true diet. This is the diet you should do, And I find that to be very confusing for a lot of people. So
it's awful. It's awful. And it's out there everywhere. And that's, where, like I said, it really has come into this trend. And so now uneducated people are spouting things that they think people should do. And that's very harmful. It's harmful for everybody, but especially for women, and mainly because of our hormones and that stress piece that I talked about at the beginning. Because, making a diet change like this, it's not, I don't know. I think everybody has their own opinion. It's not necessarily this hard change, but it is different. It's probably something you've never done before, right? So your body has never seen that before. And that change can be pretty stressful on the body. You're changing your entire metabolic process. So that has to be approached in the right way. And there's way too many people doing it wrong. And again, that's why I started this 2 years ago talking about this, because when I first started keto, I was coming from a place of just wanting to get well. I really wanted to feel like myself again after years of chronic illness, and it worked. But I was approaching it from this place of eating real, whole, nutrient-dense foods, eating as much food as I needed to feel good and to fuel my body properly. And, making it that ratio of the higher fat, moderate protein, lower carb fit into that lifestyle, but not going crazy with it, not being obsessive with it, not getting to like a zero carb thing, not only eating meat, like all these things that you see people doing now in the keto community, like not crazy fasting, all that stuff. Because I am a nutritional therapy practitioner, so I get that you need to have the nutrient density. You need to nourish your body in order to heal it. And that's something that's not addressed in the general keto community. It's all about eating less food, fasting as long as you possibly can. There's very little emphasis on the higher quality foods that you need to have. People are telling you to cut out vegetables that are extremely nutrient dense. Like all of a sudden you can't have broccoli or carrots, which is insane to me. And I don't believe any of that. And I've seen so many women have amazing success using a ketogenic approach, but not being so restrictive with it, fueling their body properly, nourishing their body properly. And that's when the change happens. However, I've seen just as many women go through this like crazy intense keto program, alter their macros to be insane, not enjoy it at all, wreak havoc on their body, and get it to a point where it feels like such a restrictive diet that they essentially are dieting and they can't sustain it. Like that's not a lifestyle change. That is like this 30-day hardcore situation. And then they completely go off the rails because they haven't had any carbs for 30 days at all. And you just can't do that. So like there's so many different levels as to why this doesn't work for people, and why being in these kind of Facebook communities and whatever, you see so many kind of like negative aspects of keto, is because they haven't taken the time to truly see it as this healthy, holistic lifestyle change. Instead, they're just like hardcoring it and expecting these like 30 pounds in 1 month success stories. They don't get it. So it's just, there's so many different facets to it, but I'm trying to slowly crack each one because I do see it. And, I have a whole course on this called the Fat Burning Female Project. And I've now had over 1,200 women go through this, and they are feeling fantastic. And they are seeing like massive health improvements, but they're approaching it from this like not crazy psycho keto program, just as this like healthy living program. And it makes such a huge difference to approach it that way.
Yeah, because what I see a lot of people doing is like this thing, my favorite questions are like, is this fill in the blank keto? You know what I mean? Like, or does somebody have like a fill in the blank like keto recommendation? Like,
Yeah.
does anybody have like a keto peanut butter recommendation?
Yeah.
Right? Or does somebody have like
it drives me insane.
yeah? Does somebody have a keto popsicle recommendation? And it's like, dude, this is crazy. You know?
Like every time I see that or I use that, I do like air quotes, is this keto? Because foods aren't keto. There is no are or are not keto. Food is just food. It's just food. It's just nourishment for your body. That's all it is. And for some, like there's no exact black and white thing of this does or does not fit into keto, because I eat carbs all the time and I still consider myself keto. But for me, I can have carbohydrates and stay in a ketogenic framework. That's what works for me. I still produce ketones. So why people are so black and white about it, I have no idea, but it doesn't have to be that way. And it shouldn't be that way, because that's when people get into trouble.
Yeah, because it's the bio-individuality.
Yes.
It's like the metabolic flexibility. It's like,
yep,
you've trained your body to be able to work like that. And
exactly.
there probably is a lot of prep work that needs to go in before you even try to start doing this keto thing, I would imagine.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And this is a big thing that I teach and that we do in my classes. We take it slow. So we slowly alter our food intake to be a more ketogenic style approach, instead of just like, all right, it's Monday, let's go for it, because that's super stressful. Like your body's not prepared for that. The slow alteration and the prep work and making sure you really think about the foods that you're putting in your body, making sure you stay on the real food path and don't get sucked in by all this keto foods nowadays that are just like loaded with crap. Like we have to take into account all of that in order to continue this healthy approach, instead of just going, again, just really getting sucked in with all this keto information and doing it wrong. And there's so many women out there that are struggling right now. And, I hate to say it, but doing more harm than good to their body by trying to follow the exact, macronutrients and the exact food intake of their neighbor who's doing keto, but their neighbor's an entirely different person with entirely different health issues or things going on with them. So it's not going to work the same. And people just can't figure that out. Like that bio-individuality just seems to go out the window as soon as we hear keto, which is so weird to me.
Yeah. And the word carbohydrate is so, it's so misconstrued. It's like people don't even know what a carbohydrate is anymore. It's like, if it's not, bacon fat, it's a carbohydrate.
Yeah, it's true, which is why there's people saying don't eat broccoli, don't eat carrots, don't eat beets. There's too many carbs. And it's like, why? Because there's like 2 carbs. Who cares? It's a very nutrient dense food. Your body needs that food. That's insane to me. And we have gone from where we demonized fat, back in the fat-free, low-fat days. We all went through that and wouldn't touch a thing that had any fat on the ingredient label, to now demonizing carbs. And if there's any carbohydrates, it's a no-go. And that is really taking out some really important foods from our diet. And that just, it just drives me crazy. And something I don't do with the people I work with. We never go zero carb. We never take out those foods. We lower our carbohydrate intake just enough so that our body understands it needs to use a different source of fuel besides just glucose. That's all you need to do, essentially. And you can do that with still having carbohydrates. It just needs to be low enough that, the energy needs that you have per day are more than that, so that you start producing ketones. That's all it is.
Yeah. And I mean, you do need carbohydrates in your body. Like, this is a thing I think, like when I see people write this, just, some person, and they're like, the body has no requirement for carbohydrates. It's like, yeah, dude, you're absolutely wrong about that. And the scary thing to me is what they're doing is they're just repeating something they've heard. Mm-hmm. It's like a game of telephone. It's like somewhere somebody heard that ketosis is achieved by low carbohydrate. And then that got turned into no carbohydrate. And then that got turned into carbs have no business in the body. You know what I mean?
And then all of a sudden carbs are the devil.
Carbs are the devil. Yeah. It's the fire and brimstone every which way you go with this sort of thing. It's like, You know, yeah, I've been kind of reading about veganism. I was a vegan for a little bit, and it's like the complete opposite, right? It's like the meat will give you cancer, the meat will give you diabetes. Then you look on the other side, it's like the carbs will give you diabetes. It's like, well, yeah, but now you, like you said, you're taking out carrots and broccoli, and we're not. It's not the same thing as pixie sticks,
Right.
So it's like it is crazy. And I think that the thing that kind of blows my mind is the part of insulin in this whole thing, which is if you do like severely restrict yourself from carbohydrates, you can really mess up your insulin sensitivity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's, I think, something that is now coming out in some people who don't understand why it didn't work or why they're now feeling worse when they did keto for 3 months or whatever, and why they're now having more problems than when they started. And it was because of this super restrictiveness that they went into keto with. It's now wreaking havoc, a couple months down the road, even a couple years down the road for some people. So that's another thing to consider is, yeah, you may feel great with this super restrictive keto at first, and then it can quickly go downhill. And that's, like you said, the insulin response is one. Being super stressful on the body is another. Severely restricting your food intake and your nutrient intake, that is so stressful on the body, but also you're now in micronutrient deficiency, right? So there's so many different ways that seem like, oh, all of a sudden I feel so good. Keto's amazing. And then 3 months later, you're like, what is happening? What am I doing wrong? Why isn't this working anymore? XYZ. But I have found that if you go into it with this really balanced, holistic approach in the first place, you can bypass that because you've never gotten to this place where your body's like, what the heck is going on? Where you're doing all this potentially harmful stuff to your body at the beginning. If you approach it right away from this really intuitive place, don't restrict yourself severely. Don't go into this with this hardcore diet mentality. It's amazing the difference that it makes. You have so much more balance throughout the whole process. And it is something where you could make it a lifestyle and have it be this long-term thing where you're kind of just in this really nice place that works for you and works for your body and isn't causing any damage and is in fact healing things.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you about two carbohydrates, and I
Okay.
want you to give me your unfiltered, unbiased, just straight up opinion of them. Okay, because these are my two favorite carbohydrates that I think do have a lot of health benefit, and that is beans and potatoes.
Okay. I like both of these questions. So, for me, beans, I think, are potentially a really great thing for some people to use or to have in their diet. I think the problem comes in with not properly preparing them. So, again, what we learn in nutritional therapy, not soaking them and making them actually digestible. So that's the biggest thing because people aren't going to go through that step and we're just too lazy. So that's the problem I see is that a lot of people just don't digest them well. And if they feel that, right? So beans being the magical fruit or whatever, like that's actually true because
Yeah.
of the lack of preparation involved in our typical bean consumption. But I don't think that they're bad. I think they do contain quite a bit of nutrients. It's just a matter of can we actually break them down to get into those nutrients so that we are absorbing them, which there's no way to know that unless you kind of experiment that with that yourself and see how you feel after you eat beans. So that's one, but I'm not against them. I don't, that's something that in my course, we do, they're quote unquote allowed to eat. Again, they're allowed to eat whatever they want, but something that I think is okay to add if they feel good when they eat beans. That's all you need to know. And that's how I feel about every single food, whether it's, like meat or vegetables or carbs, whatever. How do you feel after you eat
Mm-hmm.
that? That's all you need to know. Then it doesn't matter what anybody else says. And then it's same thing for potatoes. I think potatoes are great. I really do. I think, again, there are some people who have a blood sugar imbalance that keeps them from feeling good when they eat that kind of carbohydrate. So, you've really got to test it out and see how you do. But I think they're, again, nutrient dense. They work really well for a lot of people. They do the job. They give you the glucose if you do need some fuel for an upcoming workout or something like that. So again, great. But there are people in both cases that can't eat those things because they don't feel good when they do.
Mm-hmm. So if you're working with somebody and, you know, they've come to you and they're like, oh my God, I've tried every diet in the book, or they're even like, I've tried keto or their version of keto, you know, like where is the first place you're kind of starting with them? Because you said you're obviously not throwing them right into, you know, a strict no carbohydrate diet, but kind of like, how are you kind of leveling people into that, or I guess trying to get them metabolically adapted to a fat burning state?
The very first step, and really the only step I care about, to be totally honest, is that they eat real food. That's all I care about. Get away from the packaged, processed foods. Get back to eating, you know, good, high quality, properly raised meats and eggs and things like that. The organic vegetables that are in season and the healthy fats. Like that's easy. And if you want those foods to be sweet potatoes, bananas, plantains, white rice, whatever it is, cool. That's great. But if you just start with that, the real food framework naturally puts you into a pretty high fat, moderate protein, low carbohydrate situation. Like it's not necessarily the quote unquote ketogenic ratios, but it's enough to where you're already working to balance your blood sugar, to work on those health issues, to get your nutrients up. So just doing that is going to help so many people with so many things. So that's the very, very first step. Now, when you do that, you're already in this kind of already low carb framework, higher fat framework. And then from there, you just can slightly alter that more if you think you need more. So you take out the sweet potato for maybe you're having a carbohydrate every meal. So maybe at lunch, you just don't eat that sweet potato for a little while, see how that goes. And then if you still, and while you're doing that, maybe instead of that sweet potato at lunch, maybe you add in a half an avocado. So now you're in a little bit more of a higher fat, lower carb framework. You're just kind of swapping that out. And basically you can just keep doing that until you feel like you're in a good spot where you feel super nourished. You're not hungry all the time. You feel like things are starting to balance out with you health-wise. And that's kind of your spot. And then of course, a big thing that I really push is like there is, and this is so mixed up in the diet world. You know, we have these macronutrient ratios. We have all the apps that track all of our stuff and we put in the things, put in exactly what we eat and make sure we're on point. But there is no reason why every single day of food should look exactly the same because no day is the same. Like I sleep better or worse. My workouts differ and how hard I work in them, how much thought I put into each day, how much my brain is working, how much I move around the house even. You know, like there's so many different variables. So why in the world are we eating the same thing every day or trying to hit the same goals every day when our energy needs are not the same? So from there, you have kind of this general template of like, I feel really good when I'm eating this much fat or having this many servings of fat, this many servings of protein, this many servings of carbs. But then from there, that's going to shift from day to day just based on how I'm feeling or what kind of needs I have for that day. Like, man, I worked out really hard. I didn't sleep really well. So maybe I need more carbohydrates that day. Right. So then you can alter it based on that. But you have this kind of home base that you're building that around, and you're kind of always going back to that home base as a picture of what day to day should kind of look like for the most part. But yeah, it really I don't get this thing of like every day needs to be the same, because when do we have a day that's exactly the same? Absolutely never. So it blows my mind.
Yeah, and I forget who said it. Well, several people said it at the Nutritional Therapy conference where we first met, which was the what was it? That the microbiome, the way that, like, I mean, several people go in and they give like kind of competing, facts to what's going on. Like I heard everything from eat high carb, low fat, eat low fat to high, or high fat to low carb, all this stuff. But the one thing that it seemed like everybody agreed on was variability in the diet, and specifically in the microbiome. Getting enough of variety of different, obviously fruits, vegetables, but all kinds of foods to make that thing work right.
Yeah. And, of course, for the microbiome, absolutely. But then also kind of a byproduct of that is when you are eating the same foods every day, you are going to cause a food sensitivity. And I see this firsthand because I have these women that go through my class and they are, getting into a ketogenic state. And then from there, we test their food sensitivities for some of these people. And you'll see their food sensitivities are almost always like coconut, avocado, dairy, because they've now focused on these high fat foods, eating them every single day. And now you created a sensitivity to them because you still have a gut issue. So, just getting that diversity, even with the fats that you eat, if you're keto or regardless, like you really got to get that diversity for the nutrients, but also just to protect your gut.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a wild thing that it's like, sometimes your food sensitivities are the things that you crave the most.
Always.
Or that you eat the most.
Yep. Every single time. And I've tested hundreds of people using the MRT. That's what I use in my practice on their food sensitivities. Every single time there's like, oh my God, I eat that every single day. What am I going to do? It's like their crutch. Like not only is it something they eat every single day, but it's like their favorite food. Like they have to eat that. So it forces these people to start looking outside the box for what they're used to, just, going through the store, picking up the same exact things, not thinking about it. And you have to get out of that. And it makes a huge difference just to start rotating your foods.
So because you work with so many women, do you work with guys too, or is it just strictly women?
I used to, when I was doing one-on-one consultations, work with men. Yeah, now since it's the Fat Burning Female Project, there's no men in there. So, but like I said, still men following my work. Yeah.
Guys, you can do the female project. It's okay. You'll learn a lot.
You can, yeah.
I'm trying to get you some business here, Shawn.
Yeah, thank you. No, seriously, I would. They are more than welcome into the class for sure. But it just hasn't ever gotten anybody in there. But
what about guys dressed up as women? Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect. Okay, exactly.
Perfect. So, but I was going to say, because you work with women, I find just the prevalence of thyroid problems with women. It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, this might just be just a, just kind of a dumb generalization, but I feel like every woman at this point is dealing with some kind of thyroid problem. So I wonder kind of how you approach that with a ketogenic diet.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, first of all, I also see it in most women, and I had issues with my thyroid in the past. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is the autoimmune condition of thyroid, back, gosh, it's been years now, but I am in remission. But what I have found to be the case is that is tied into stress, because your adrenals and your thyroid are connected as well. And so your thyroid can only rev the engine as fast as the engine can go. And at the engine being your adrenal system and the stress response, if you're struggling there, then the thyroid can only push so hard. It can't push your body to do more than its capacity. And that's the case with the adrenal thyroid connection. So quite often, once I see women heal their adrenals, and this was the case for me, when they actually take the time to heal their cortisol response, which first you have to find out what's going on with you in order to do that, and take the time to de-stress and find those stress relieving techniques that they can continue on throughout their life, basically, then the thyroid comes into balance as well. Quite often, especially, if it's a hypothyroid situation. It's a little different, of course, if it's an autoimmune condition, because you need to figure out what your immune system is doing. So it's a different situation, but still stress is a huge component to that too. So that's what I have found. And if we're talking keto, now, like I've mentioned a couple times, keto can be super stressful if you're going into it with that diet mentality, that hardcore quick fix program following the random blogger that you found and their macros that they think you should do, that's stressful. If you approach it from this holistic approach where you're learning how to make it this healthy lifestyle and you're finding out more about your body, you're tapping into your body and what it's telling you it does and doesn't need as far as food, you're making sure to properly fuel it. You're not fasting when it's not the right time to fast or forcing anything. And having carbohydrates still in your diet to some degree, all this stuff that I promote so hardcore. When you do that, I have found that your adrenals really like that. They really love that because potentially for the first time in years, you're actually nourishing your body. You're actually not on a diet. You're actually eating real food and taking out the crap, right? So all of that is de-stressing the body, and it's becoming this more stress relief to actually fuel your body appropriately. So, and then you tack on to that the fact that you have metabolic flexibility now. So you're never putting your body in the situation where it's like, what the heck am I supposed to burn? Like the glucose is gone. You haven't fed me enough glucose. Now you have this kind of back storage of ketones as well. So you can go in between both glucose as fuel and ketones as fuel. So that's super, safe. It's a very safe feeling for your body. So all of that really helps the stress response, which then in turn starts to regulate the thyroid as well. And so that's usually how I see it going. It takes some time. It's not immediate, of course, but it does really help. Again, it's all about the approach though.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of intermittent fasting for women? Because I know. Because I've gone back and forth on this one myself, even for dudes, because like a year ago, it was like, I was all in on the intermittent fasting. And now that I understand so much more about nutrition and the body, it's like, I don't know if that's the best idea for anybody. So I'm curious where you fall into that.
Yeah, as it go, well, really, I guess this could be general information for both parties. I think that it can be a really helpful tool for some people to add to their toolbox for health issues. There's specific ones that it's better for than others. If you have blood sugar issues like insulin resistance, diabetes, something like that, it can be a really great tool. What I see happening, which is very similar to what I see with keto, is people just think I have to do this. Like this has to be every single day. I'm not going to eat till noon. I'm going to fast such and such hours because this is what it takes to lose weight, or this is what X person is doing and is working for them. This is what I was told to do in order to be keto, right? There's all this stigma around fasting now. It's very similar to the keto world. Kind of synonymous, I guess. And what happens is for women, and I think this goes for men too, it is a stressor. It's going to be stressful on your body to not feed your body. There is no way around that. You are going to get a cortisol response. You're going to get an adrenaline response. If you have worked on your adrenal system enough to be able to handle that, if you don't have a lot of other stress going on, if your cortisol is perfect and your adrenals are functioning amazingly well, then adding that isn't going to do that much. You're going to be able to handle that. The problem is nobody's there, right? Like none of us have this stress thing figured out. So adding this on top of general life stressors, general health stressors that we're already doing, it's often putting people over the edge. It's making it too much. And gosh, I cannot even tell you the amount of women that I'm like, I don't think it's the right time for you to fast. And they stop and they feel so much better. Like they feel so much better. They start getting the results that they weren't getting as far as weight loss or health gain. And it's like they thought they had to because someone told them down the line they had to, and it made them worse off. And they're just not ready. Like you are in complete control of this journey, and it's okay to say, I'm not ready. It's a really good understanding of your body to understand now is not the right time. Like I've got other things to work on. My adrenals aren't really in check. My thyroid's still struggling, because it's not good for the thyroid to not feed your body, to put yourself through that. I do not recommend it for anybody with thyroid issues, or like I'm still having issues with my my cycle. It's not feeling really good. I still have painful menstrual cycles. And if any of that's not there yet, it's not the right time. It's just not the right time. And maybe down the road it can be. And maybe there's a case where like every once in a while you just aren't hungry for breakfast. And that's cool. You're already doing a really good fast just by eating breakfast an hour later, 2 hours later. And that's a very intuitive way to approach fasting. But just going into it hardcore because you heard that's what you should do isn't the right approach.
Yeah, because I've read these different books. I've looked at these studies, like the fasting mimicking diet and all these different things, just hardcore calorie restriction. And what it looks like to me that happens, and this happens across the board in health, which is they isolate a variable. So in this case, like eating, and they test it in rats. And they're like, well, the rats live longer. Like they're testing for longevity. They're not testing for like overall wellness or thyroid function or adrenal function, which will also affect your longevity.
Right.
But they say, well, we studied these rats, and the ones who ate less or the ones who fasted every day, they lived, like 8 days longer than those. So then that means that humans will live longer. And we hear that and we're like, well, now I got to intermittent fast. And, at least in my experience, I got to the point, or I'm still at the point where I can do it fairly easy. Like I can do a 16-8, and I find that happens with a lot of people. But at the same time, like if you actually break down the blood work of people like that, you will see like thyroid problems. You'll see excessive cortisol, and you'll see insulin problems.
Yep, exactly. It's just your body has to be prepared for that. And like I said, no matter what, it's a stressor. So consider that when you make the choice for yourself, if you're going to fast or not, like, is my body ready to handle yet another stressor? And I think a lot of us would say no, at least on most days. It's just something to keep in mind. And as far as those studies go, anything that involves food or diet and a mouse, I just don't even pay attention to be totally honest, because they are all flawed, like really flawed studies.
Yeah, how did we even get to that point? Like,
I know.
I mean, I live in New York. I see rats all the time. And I don't ever look at a rat and be like, yeah, me and that thing got some things in common. Yeah, we got some similarities. I like to run underneath the subway rails every once in a while. I like to
It's so
walk
weird.
around and poop. Yeah, like that's how I go. It's like, how are we going to do that? And then be like, well, see, so we tested, people's sensitivity to I don't know, the vegan diet in rats, and they live longer. So clearly that works for us. And it's like, and people are living and dying off of those studies.
Right. Exactly. And then, for me, it's like I've now worked with 1,200 women, and my ability to understand what does and doesn't work for them, I take way more information from that than some random study on a rodent. Like these anecdotal things are where we get our actual evidence and the stories of what does and doesn't work for actual people doing it. I put way more weight in that.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you this kind of one last thing related to keto, because this is like my this is where I start getting that kind of keto skeptic thing going, which is exogenous ketones. So let me know what you think about that.
Oh man, I guess short answer is I don't like them and I wish they would go away. But I mean, here's the deal. They have a purpose. I think my purpose for exogenous ketones would be either those that need a really high level of ketones in their blood in order to heal, which would be potentially like Alzheimer's, cancer patients, something like that, where just eating a keto diet isn't going to produce enough to where they can see the healing benefits of a high dosage of ketones. And that, that there's studies that does exist. That's a real thing where they do actually get a lot of benefit from having this high dose. And so exogenous ketones work really well in those patients. The other thing that I would say is if on occasion you are about to like compete in some sort of athletic competition, or you are studying for an exam or have an exam coming up, and you could potentially use a boost in either your energy or your mental performance for a 1-day period. I think that has some merit too, because, it really does work. You're having that high dose of exogenous ketones going through your blood for that short period of time. It does provide some mental clarity and focus and some additional kind of strength or power for a short period of time. But other than that, I don't see any reason to spend the large amount of money that they are on those things. And what I see is people are like, they just want to get in ketosis. They don't understand the actual process of that or what that even means. All they know is they want to be keto. So they start taking the exogenous ketones, not really focusing on their diet at all, not working to balance anything out. And I think it's a cheat. I think they're cheating instead of doing the work to teach your body what it means to be in ketosis, what it means to have this alternate fuel source, to change your metabolic function when it's needed. That whole process is completely taken out when you just shovel ketones into your mouth. Like it doesn't work that way. So I think it's a way to cheat the system, and it's not really doing anything at all.
I just you saying shovel ketones in your mouth, I just thought of somebody just sitting at their table with a bowl of exogenous ketones.
Like, I need more.
Just give me more ketones. That's the thing, is like, it's so prevalent in the health industry now that it's like, buy your ketones. Like, I follow people who are like, they sell it. It's almost become kind of one of those, what is the pyramid scheme thing? Well, that's kind of like what some of those companies are too, is like the multi-level marketing.
Yep.
Hey, I'm gonna hire you to sell ketones, and then I'll make money off you and you make money. And at some point it's like, I mean, we know because we work within the supplements, and there's good supplements, and then there's like the vast majority of them are just terrible quality and probably come with more stress than is worth.
Yeah. And anything that is making money on hacking a system, just be skeptical, no matter if it's diet or whatever related. Anything that is hacking any sort of system and charging you a lot of money to do so, it's probably not going to work.
Especially because ketosis is like this thing that our body has evolved to be able to do as a survival mechanism. So it's like, you can't just start, adding to that, because the body just doesn't know what to do with more of that. It's like, okay, well, it's almost kind of like a drug at that point, where
Right.
it's like excessive amounts of a thing. It's like insulin. Like, you give diabetics fake insulin, but you have to be careful with it. You can't give them too much, because that's not how the body doesn't know what to do with all that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. It's just go the actual traditional route and do the work. And none of us want to do the work. You've got to do the work.
Got to do the work. Well, I think we did some work here for sure.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I think we definitely worked this podcast. So this is great. I thank you for coming on to the podcast. I know, the a-holes out there, we got a lot of women who listen, but even the dudes, the dude a-holes, I think you're going to get a lot out of this. I know I learned a lot from this podcast, and I think you might have even shifted my opinion on keto a little bit.
Oh, yes. And my job is done.
There you go. So if you want, you could let the listeners know about where they can find you online, a little bit about your course, social media.
Yeah.
The stage is yours. Go for it.
Yes. Well, most of what I do is all on my website at shawnmynar.com, just my first and last name. So you can find most things over there. I'm also pretty big on Instagram. I like to be on there a lot. So you can find me over on Instagram at Shawn Mynar, Facebook at Shawn Mynar Health, Keto For Women show, anywhere you listen to podcasts, pretty much everywhere these days. And the Fat Burning Female Project, like I said, 6-week course to slowly alter the transition into a healthy ketogenic space, see how you do in the process, use your intuition and learn how to tap into that so you can make it a lifestyle that's a long-term health situation and not this crash course. And yeah, it's turned around a lot of women's health, which I think is the most important thing. It is not a weight loss course. It is a health gain course. I say that all the time because there's a big difference. So that's me.
That's awesome. And just a personal note to the a-holes out there, if you are looking to lose weight, like let's say, we just kind of talked for a little while about how it's not a great goal to have, but if you are into that sort of thing, definitely checking out somebody like Shawn's course or working with someone like Shawn is the best way to go, because she is coming from this nutritional therapy practitioner background and has the ability to use tests and actually get targeted on helping you not just lose weight and look better, but actually feel better. And really that's what we should be, that's what we want to go. That's what we want to get out of all this.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you so much for your time, Shawn. Everybody go listen to the Keto for Women podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Hey there, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the podcast today. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't done it yet, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Go on over to iTunes, leave a 5-star review, and make sure you catch up with me, the Holistic A-Hole, on all the social mediums, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all Holistic A-Hole. Join the Holistic A-Hole YouTube page. Just find me Holistic A-Hole. All the videos, all the podcast episodes are there. And if you haven't done this yet, if you're new to the podcast, just catch yourself up. Go on a little Holistic A-Hole binge. You know you're going to love the episodes. Got some great stuff in there for you. And some great content coming around the corner. So definitely appreciate you guys' love and support. Couldn't do this without you. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.